up my notes. And let's rock and roll. Morning Trade Pros, welcome to our morning market update for Thursday. All right, it is Thursday, May the 28th. Right, boy, we're almost halfway through the year. Pretty spooky stuff. All right, we're going to talk about a few things in today's morning market update, and we have a guest in the office today. Oh my God, it's so good to have company. Thanks for coming out, Vicky. Torio's in here. We're socially distancing. Look, if I stick my arm out, he's nowhere near. Yeah, we. if he sticks his arm out, then we touch our fingertips. It's pretty weird. Let's get into it. In our new segment, the Power 60. Within a minute, I'll give you guys some news around the market that's going on that won't necessarily impact today's stock performance, but it could be something to watch out for. All right, so here's your Power 60. SpaceX abandons their launch just 17 minutes from the scheduled date yesterday. It was going to be the first private launch of astronauts into outer space. It's rescheduled to Saturday at 3:22 p.m. due to weather issues. All right, airline layoffs. American Airlines are looking for a 30% reduction in headcount. Obviously, nobody's flying, or very few people are flying. All right, they're asking volunteers for buyouts through June 10th. 30% is a huge shaving of the of jobs and people who rely on them for work and employment. That's something that could factor into future unemployment claims. But in the flip side of that, the private airline industry is booming. So anyone looking for some investment opportunities, that could be something to research. Short haul flights are surging, demand for them at $3,300 per seat. If you could find 6 to 8 people, you could charter a flight. All right, and that's kind of what's going on to help you practice social distancing. And in other news, Carl Icahn unloads his Hertz position. He had a 39% stake at a significant loss of $1.6 billion. So if you've had a down day or two trading, all right, at least it ain't $1.6 billion. And if it is, then damn. All right, the stock's down over 20% for Hertz. All right, now let's get into the market stuff. That was your Power 60. There's been a tweet storm by Donald Trump and this social media thing that's taken place. I'll tell you this. It has the potential to disrupt the social media sector, but I don't think traders are taking it serious. And I think they're calling us bluff that he isn't going to implement anything. But what Donald Trump's thinking about doing is putting in an executive order that will allow major social media platforms to be open up to lawsuits. So there's this thing called the Communications Decency Act. All right. I guess where indecent exposure comes from, but we got to keep communications decent. The CDA, as it's called, Section 230, exempts social media companies from being responsible or liable from content that their contributors provide. So if somebody posts something on Facebook and there's liability because of that, it's an irresponsible, indecent message, whatever it is, there is no responsibility on the behalf of the company, like Facebook, Google, all right, Twitter, any of these companies. Donald Trump's proposing changing that section of the act, which would significantly expose companies to massive lawsuits. Imagine tweeting something and then going ahead and suing Twitter for voicing that opinion. That's going to be a big problem. It could open up huge liability if it's signed into law, and I don't think for that reason it is. I think it's a huff and a puff. I don't think that massive action's taken. It will significantly unroot the stability of these companies, and it'll cause NASDAQ to plummet if and when it's done. All right, so that's something we're following and tracking on. NASDAQ sold off a little bit, but then it's regained all of its losses from yesterday. Yesterday, our sentiment was to sell early on, and boy, did that work. All right, you got like a 60, 70-point drop. Our team members did fantastic. About 78% of our trading room who was trading live capital was positive yesterday. So really good sentiment, good flow through, nice extension and downside, great opportunity. Today, though, is a new day, and we're only as good as our last trading day. All right, the big news of the morning is initial unemployment claims. All right, for May 28th, they came out at 2.12 million versus an expectation of 2.1 million. So they're higher than expected, which the new trader would say, oh, that's bad. Let me short the market. Well, if you're shorted the market just based on that, you're getting stopped out at the moment. It's actually good. This number is a really good number. This is the 8th consecutive week of declines in the filing of people who are unemployed. So initial jobless claims are you're initially filing for unemployment. This is your first time. You just lost your job. You're saying, I got to file for unemployment benefits. That's what's called initial unemployment claims. Those claims have continuously declined, and this is the 8th straight week of declines. Look, It ain't good. In the last 10 weeks, there's been 40.757 million people who have filed for unemployment claims. That number gets thrown around, but there's a realization that we're not picking up on here because, yes, that's how many people in total have filed for initial claims, but it doesn't keep track of how many people have returned to work. All right. It doesn't mean there's 40 million people unemployed at the moment. It means that's how many have filed, but it ignores the fact how many have returned to work or are no longer filing for claims. And when you look at that number, this is called the continuing jobs claims. These are people who have filed before initially, but are now continuing to claim them. All right, pretty straightforward language. Continuing claims are 21.05 million, which is way lower than the expectation of 25 million and below the expected low end of the range. The high end of the range is 27. The range was 25 to 27. Expectation was at the 25 marker. All right, the low end of the range. We came in better than the low expectations, which is good for a number which, if it's higher, it means it's worse. So 21 million people are filing continuously for unemployment, less than expected. So while the new claims are going down, the existing ones are decreasing as well, which means simply, yes, people are filing for unemployment still, but there are more people that are returning to work. All right, only 20 million are claiming on a continuous basis. Only sounds crazy. If you would have said only 20 million are filing for unemployment, 7 months ago, I'd say you're nuts. Depression's coming, but no one should be surprised. All right, we all know how COVID's affected the market. None is a surprise. This is a positive thing for the market. This news is actually bullish. All right, you have to understand that. So I'm just breaking it down for you because I want you to get it. Economic calendar today at 8:30. We also had the GDP. It's called the advanced reading, but it's actually the second reading. The first one was preliminary, which is the one the traders care about. So the advanced one came out at -5%. All right, for the first quarter. Think about this: January, February, March, the end of March. So April, May, the last 2 months where we have a lot of developments and a decrease in cases aren't counted in this. So number one, it's stale data. Number two, it's a second revision of stale data. So it really doesn't matter much. All right, it came out at -5. The expectation was -4.8. And so, it's more or less in line with expectation. 0.2%. Although it's significant, it's not for stale data, all right, or a stale number. That's very important. So now you have GDP that really isn't that big of a deal, and unemployment claims that came out somewhat positive. All right, not somewhat, they are positive, no matter how you look to spin it. In today's markets, Japan's up 2.3, Hong Kong's flat, China's up 0.3%, India's 1.7. In Europe at midday, London's up 0.6%. Paris is up 1.1. All right, Frankfurt's up 0.8%. And in the European market, we saw a lot of the recovery from yesterday's sell-off on low volume. That's been the trend. Low volume overnight rally. Okay, heavy volume sell-off in the morning part of the session in the U.S. Continuation to the upside in the early afternoon to around late afternoon when the Asian markets open. That's been the trend. All right, and so markets right now, overnight high is 53.75 on the S&P. That's higher than yesterday's around 38 marker. So we're continuing to put new overnight highs. We're putting in higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. Keep an eye out on that trend. We're still moving to the upside. All right. I do think the market's a little overdone. Okay. But just because I think that doesn't mean that I'm not going to get long if the opportunity's there. My opinion and bias is irrelevant. The market's going to do whatever it wants. I'm not going to affect it in the least bit. All right. Even if I max out my margin, I'm not going to affect the market. I might for a second or two, but then I'm just absorbed into it, and now I'm at the mercy of it. We're always at the mercy of the market. So above the 53.75, I expect a rally today. Below there, we're going to start out with the same concept. Fade the early morning gains overnight. Look to get short a little bit early on if the opportunity is there. If we flip above that 54, I think it opens up the upside. Don't mess with it. Don't fade it. Don't short something just because you didn't buy it. The worst reason to be short is that you missed a long. Don't do that. Trouble is always knocking your door when you're doing that. All right, crude oil this morning is down 2.6. At 11 a.m. today, we're going to have the inventory report. It caused a lot of volatility, a lot of opportunity. We're going to trade it live in our room. All right, it's on a Thursday at 11. Usually it's Wednesday at 10:30, but when Monday's a holiday and the markets are closed, it gets pushed one day forward and 30 minutes later than usual. All right, 10:30 is natty gas at its regular scheduled time. 11 a.m. it's crude oil. So look for some volatility around 11 a.m. in the energy complex. All right, gold's up 1.5%, 1736. It's now making a push towards overnight high at 41.90. All right, Bitcoin's up 2.9, just above 9,000. It seems to like that range. It's putting in some more value. It's consolidating there. All right. And on today's economic calendar, 10 a.m., you got pending home sales. 10:30 natty gas. 11 a.m. crude oil inventories. 11 also we're getting Fed's Williams speaking. 1 p.m. result of a 38 billion 7-year note auction. 3 p.m. Fed's Harker speaking. And then at 4:30 after the market closed, we got the money supply and balance sheet from the Federal Reserve. Okay. So really watch top of the hours at 10 and 11 a.m. And those are the 2 points you can have some volatility for. First, oil at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. equities, then oil at 11 a.m. All right, those are going to be your volatility points for the day. Other than that, the upside continues, even though it's on low volume, even though it's overnight in the London session when most U.S. traders are asleep, it's still going up. This morning, if we can't break the top of the range established overnight, we're going to have to sell it down to support and then pick it up on the long once we do hit support. I don't want to be buying near an all-time high. Not all-time high, but near an overnight high. It has the same effect as buying at an all-time high. All right. Dream Team is getting together once again. Will, thank you, brother. We're really excited. Steven, hey. Steven H. What's up, my brother? Hope you've been good. It's been a while. We miss you. Verillo says the riffraff's still too bearish. Sell them their puts. Look, I think we're in a very interesting level at the market. We've priced in a very optimistic recovery, and we're going to need a lot of data to support this optimistic recovery to keep going up. What people don't realize is, the next 30 points are always harder than the prior 30 points. So at this level, around the 30-40, which was my weekly target, we've gotten it. There is the likelihood that we consolidate to end the week. Remember, it's a shortened 4-day week. There's an opportunity here for the next couple of days to consolidate, close it out, and next week pick up the buck. All right, so we're getting into the tail end of this short week. Be careful. All right, we've had a lot of volatility yesterday. Today, I think early on we get some volatility, and I think the market quiets down for the rest of the week. So be prepared for that as well. You don't have to be long or short 30 lots to make money, right? Ride the range. Smaller size, smaller profits. Great. Your profits should be directly in line with what's going on in the market. If the market's running, your profit should be running nice too. The market's consolidating, you should tail it back a bit. You don't want to be hitting, directional size in a range. That's where a lot of problems occur. All right. I love you guys. Be careful out there. Be safe. Manage your risk. Trade Pro. We'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's last day of the week. I had to scratch my nose trying to hold it. But Gregory, why doesn't the market care about Hong Kong? I wouldn't say it doesn't care, Gregory. It's just, there isn't really a big surprise. And I think the market is more interested in this Corona recovery, people getting back to work. All right. And when you're in a bullish market, and I would argue that we could be restarting the bull from the 2174s. I know that's late information, but when you're in a bullish market, you're looking to not care about negative information as much, and then, assimilating the positive and giving it more weight. At the moment, we're on a bullish push, and I think it's shrugging that news off. Over the weekend, I think there's some developments that could really impact the market and push the downside, but that's next week. All right. I think you got to go with the flow. The flow is currently bullish, and I do think the next 50 points from here are down. All right. So be careful how you trade this. I love you guys. Be careful. I appreciate y'all. Stay safe, manage your trade pro. We got to open up the trading room. Kind of went a little bit over time. Peace out, YouTube. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. Ciao. Let's get in the trading room, set some levels, and let's get it going. Vicky, over to you for